I'm Lorena Durando, lots of people call me Lori, and I chair the program here at UWM, and we're very pleased to welcome Michael Bearden to us today to talk about the language services industry. Michael is a Wisconsin native with a background in Spanish and communications. He is a big Packer fan, which is very important, right? And he's now president of ISI Language Solutions in Glendale, California. And it's going to be a very short introduction because I want you to hear him talk instead of me. Thank you for coming.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me. Welcome, everybody. How are we doing?
Great.
My name is Michael. Thank you for that, Lorena. Thanks for having me. Thrilled to be here. I wanted to call out, my parents are here, Sandy and Lou. So if Lou falls asleep or if Sandy's on Instagram, call them out. Okay? I'm going to have to walk back to change this. The hardest thing that I'll do today is squeeze everything that I have to talk about in an hour. I'm going to do my best. It's not a lot of time. We will definitely carve out a little bit of time at the end for Q&A, but I'm as organic of speakers as they come. So if you have a question or something, there's a bolt of lightning that you want to ask about or think about, or maybe if I see you nodding ever so slightly, I might even call on you. But that's not to encourage you to not nod. Okay? I need to see what's behind me. So I come from a language service company. We operate in Glendale or the Los Angeles area. I know that you have some access to industry data, and I'm not going to come here and talk about a lot of figures, but to give you an idea, we're what we call a moderately sized LSC. I use the term language service company and not provider. Common Sense Advisory comes out with a study every year based on volume. In 2018, we were the 16th biggest in the United States and the 68th largest in the world. As I told Lorena, I had a ton of hair when I started and our business was growing, and now it's all fallen out because of the stress. So we are just big enough to no longer be small and just small enough to not really be big, and that's an interesting place for us to be. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how we kind of tackle some of our problems being a moderately sized language service company. I'm a big picture guy. I'm not going to dive down into the weeds on a lot of the different tools and processes and people, etc. But you can certainly ask and pull something out. Broad brushstrokes, and of course, just because I say this is how we do it or this is what works for us, doesn't mean it's the only way. You said you're still trying to figure out what to do with your life. So am I. You have a ton of time. As I told Lorena and the team at lunch, I thought I wanted to be an English professor, and I was into writing, and I was into researching. If I could stay in college forever and just keep writing papers, I would have done it, but my mom probably would have continued to pay for it. But language has always been a passion of mine. I'm a Spanish speaker. I'm not a translator or a linguist, but I really care about communication, and I did some traveling and teaching and working, studying abroad, and I realized that I just doubled or quintupled the amount of people that I can communicate with, share ideas, experiences with, and to me that's very exciting. I got into language services just because I was passionate about language. So this is kind of what I'm talking about. I'm not going to read that or even try to ask you to read all those things, but everyone at our company has come there for a reason, give or take. I have 56 full-time employees, hundreds if not thousands of independent contractors. We're going to talk about what it takes to be a provider from in-house or someone that helps us externally. But a lot of our staff cares about multilingual communication because it's impacted their lives in some way. So I encourage you, you all have said that you are curious about language or you're not sure what to do professionally. I think following your heart, and if you have a passion for language and bridging communication gaps, that's a great place to begin. Okay? Going quickly. So, we have folks that are here at the university studying, trying to figure out what they want to do. And we talked at lunch, and you said a majority of the students probably want to be a translator or an interpreter. Does anybody here have an idea what they want to do with their degree or language? Even pie in the sky, what does utopia look like?
Interpreting, medical interpreting, and translating?
Medical interpreting and translating, okay?
Taking over Rick Steve's job.
Taking over Rick Steve's job.
Honestly.
I don't know who Rick Steve is, and this is being recorded.
amazing.
A travel blogger.
On PBS.
blogger, on
So he gets ready to
PBS.
go travel.
Oh, got
Yeah.
it, sure. See, for my generation, it's like Anthony Bourdain. Or maybe too much food.
Rick
Yeah.
Good.
He's an old.
He's in a generation before you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. You learn something every day. That's the best part of this. So, you know, and you're onto something, and I tell this to my kids who are back home in California, language will open up doors. Like if you can acquire language skills, whether it's technical or in professional capacity, or even in more of a conversational capacity, doors will be opened. You work at Miller Coors, right? Did speaking French or having a French or that background have anything to do with you getting in the door?
That's the only reason.
Amen. So who knew that Miller Coors, you know, needed or cared about language industry? And I know I'm here to talk about our company, the language service, what we do in the industry, but just language will open up doors. So continue cultivating. Someone works on their own. Where did you study on your own? Keep going. You have no idea the amount of doors that will continue to open more and more and more. Nobody was standing in front of me in Wisconsin in 1983 talking about language, right? And so we just had to kind of organically follow our passion, but now there's a university, there are programs, there are opportunities for you to go in one of the fastest growing markets in the world. Okay, so following that passion and continuing to cultivate your interests are important. I have to go somewhere where I can look at this.
Do you want me to advance your slides for you?
Oh, no, it's okay. I don't mind. I
Okay.
don't have a Fitbit on, but you know, it's okay. So, recruiting, training, improvement. So here is just a really quick glimpse of the roles that folks like yourselves can come to our company and play. Okay? Our linguists. We don't do what I call crowdsourcing at ISI. We don't follow that blast approach of sending an email out to the universe and lots of listservs and say, whoever can translate 5,000 words from English to Spanish by tomorrow for $211 or less gets this project. Now that I'm the size that we are, I go toe-to-toe with the big boys, with TransPerfect, with Lionbridge, with SDL. I literally share space with my largest client with companies that are 25 times the size that we are. But my clients don't know that, they don't understand that. So they expect us to provide a lot of the same solutions and the same quality and the same language support as a company. I mean, it would be like a little tiny Ace hardware store trying to go toe-to-toe with Amazon. I mean, it's really imbalanced, and everybody has to figure out their niche and their way to go about it. And one of our differentiators is client service, is customer service, it's communication, it's quality through consistency. So we find folks like yourselves, when we onboard our linguists, we do it slowly, okay? We start with certifications. We start there. We start with education, your background, your experience. We bring you into our ecosystem. We have internal assessments built in literally every language combination for the most part. We have to assess your language skills, your ability to edit, proofread, minor formatting skills, but what we do more than anything is we measure your ability to follow instructions. We never tell you that, but that's what we're doing the entire time. Does this person do what we ask? You know, I have proposals that I submit to big companies, and they say, even number of pages, no printing on the backside, 3-ring binder, and if it doesn't do this, you are literally expelled. And we have lost opportunities because we've made a little minor administrative boo-boo, and we kind of have carried that along. So follow instructions, pay attention, do what you're asked to do. So all the keys to our exams are right there in front of you in the instructions, but you'd be surprised how many people go too quickly or don't follow them. Okay? And I mentioned our quality through consistency. What we like to do once we have met you, once we have worked with you, or at least brought you into our database, we have a resource management kind of arm of our company, and then we like to find out what you do really well, or what kind of projects you do really well. So if someone has a background in computer science, or there was someone that mentioned finance, you need to know that. You have to advocate for yourself. We have projects that go from 1 hour turnaround time, maybe a 1 paragraph, due back in an hour, to 50,000 word projects in 25 languages that literally take 6 to 9 months to complete. Some people really like that sense of accomplishment. Like, how many people make lists and feel great when they cross stuff off? Right? I'm one of those people. It feels good. So if you're someone that works in this quick twitch environment and you're really good about checking your email and responding, and you're a multitasker and you can go in and out, think about what kind of companies do that kind of work. We're going to talk more about that. Project assistants, designers. Everybody good with computers? Yeah, so-so? Getting better? I hired someone, and on day 1, I said, can you please send that back to me with track changes? And he responded and he said, what are track changes? So then we have to go back to our HR team to say, we're not asking all the right questions. So you guys are all pretty good, but get good with computer skills. The way that we operate with our project managers, and I'm going to switch over to the right side, is we dedicate them to accounts or an account or a business unit. So you work with the same clients time and time again. We do a majority of our hiring through places like University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. There's an institution in Monterey, the Middlebury Institute of International Studies. We want people like yourselves with professional linguistic aptitude, language skills, that can be translators, can be interpreters. You could be hired guns, but I like to talk you into coming and being our project managers. Because our clients expect to be talking to someone who knows about language. They don't want envelope pushers. We get last minute changes. Oh, here was the final English. I made these 7 edits. Here's that traditional Chinese you sent me yesterday, 3 hours ago. Edit this and get it back to me in 17 seconds. Like, that's the kind of environment that we have to operate in. So by having somebody with language skills like yourself representing our company makes all the difference. Again, it's how we do business. It's what makes sense for us. Our clients don't want to hear, I got to email the translator in Taiwan, I'm sure he'll get back to me tomorrow, and then I'll let you know. It's just not how we work. So that's about the master's degrees. It adds a kind of an extra layer of linguistic aptitude, if you will, or a polish. And you got to be good with tools. I know that we're doing some CAT training, right? Which programs are we?
SD Altrada Studio and Multi-Term and MemoQ.
Terrific. The big ones.
The big ones.
Right. How about any project management or translation management software?
Yeah, Plunet and XCRS.
Plunet. We're a Plunet company. We'll talk more about that. We have, our clients run the continuum from really, really polished, really mature, intense localization units built inside of those companies. And they want to talk, these days it's all about how can we push content faster and more seamlessly through open APIs, and they don't want to be emailing back and forth. And you go all the way to the other end of the continuum. We have clients that, God bless them, they're still in like 1996 and it's really mellow and they just want to send Word docs, and can I just get my Word doc back? And those are great too. So, you know, we have a terrific blend of clients and expectations, but we need people that can fulfill these roles. And then the assistants, project assistants, are the people in the background, extracting text, converting documents, grabbing things off FTPs. A client might send us one email and there's just a ton of files and I need a quote by tomorrow at noon. And just the manual of dropping them down, looking at the files, running them through Trados, building an analysis, thinking about desktop publishing, how are we going to build this client, looking at client pricing sheets, like all of that stuff is happening in the background by folks that aren't as polished, which maybe aren't you folks. Maybe it's just somebody that is happened to stumble onto ISI or company like ours and they speak a little Spanish. They got in the door because they have French on their resume, but they are so vital because they keep our project managers on the front lines, able to take calls, able to respond to emails really quickly, and kind of keep winning on that service side. It's an actual picture. I was at that run, but I didn't make the cut. Let's see here. It's a very similar slide, so I'm going to skip right through it, but 4 on the right is kind of important because we are still trying to provide a different kind of service than a lot of our competitors. And having access to executive management, to a lot of our managers, is something that keeps driving ISI. Our largest clients are used to talking to, say, just a sales, not just, but a sales broker, someone who is caring more about their numbers or commissions, etc. But we are driving a lot of our business through personal communication and interaction. Okay. All right, who wants to be a translator? All right, terrific. This slide's for you. Here's how it works for us, not necessarily for the industry. Forecast need. Okay, we have to be on the front line with our clients. What's coming next year? What does Q4 look like? What does 2020 look like? Are there any new programs? We do a lot of healthcare translation. We work with a lot of companies that receive funds from the federal government, so they're mandated to translate their content into what are called threshold languages. Have we heard of that before? You have, right? So just for instance, we'll get a simple document from one of our healthcare clients and it needs to come back in 14 languages. Okay? That happens all the time. So we need to forecast need. We need to know what's going on. I was telling you a story that I was speaking to someone in St. Cloud and they need Somali interpreters. So now we have to go back to our resource management team. We have to figure out what we need first before we can engage with you all. Okay? Then we find you through a lot of the same channels. Do you talk about Pro-Z and ATA, that stuff, or no?
Well, we talk about ATA. We don't spend a lot of time on Pro-Z. I mean, we're kind of training people to go initial paths that aren't bidding sites necessarily, but profiles on purpose, yeah.
Profile, LinkedIn,
Yeah,
things
right.
like that, right? So all of the usual places is where we'll look for you. And then I talked about that qualification review. Once we found each other, we have a very kind of what I think is a sustainable and repeatable process. We have to extract a lot of information from you in the shortest amount of time. We're all being asked to do more with less. So if you are engaging with a company like ours, I said, number 1, follow instructions, respond quickly and easily, and be easy to work with. If you both are great and both of your CVs look great, but you ask 17 questions and you take 7 emails to get there, and you are just one submission, you got the job. All right, and that's not some people just are more chatty right through the process, but a lot of companies just, we need to get to that person or match skills as quickly as possible. Talked about those internal assessments, and then we talked to you, okay, terrific. You are great. You're a German to English, how about German to Croatian? Do you do that combo?
Yeah.
German to Croatian?
Yes,
Thanks for your
because I'm
card.
bilingual.
Thanks for your card. I have one business card and I got the right one. And then we do what we call a mentorship. We are not able to just send you out on the front lines right away and just start to translate or edit to proof first time. Okay, we have internally what we call language leads, and these are legacy linguists that have been with us for more than a decade. I'm thinking about, we have a translation team in Argentina that handles a couple of accounts, Spanish, and she now has grown and runs, has a team working for her, but she's kind of like, she knows everything about the client's terminology and how it's changed over the years. We've tracked it all. By track, I mean the evolution of the changes. We used to use this set of terminology, now it's grown to here. So we have these language leads that are kind of like the keepers of everything that's important per language, and they are tasked with assessing those translations or editing and proofreading. It's kind of like a training, like an orientation, 90 days, something like that. So you are getting a lot of feedback, and I'll get to that in a moment. And then, eventually we want to see you go from someone who needs mentoring or is on smaller, maybe less visible accounts to the big, most important ones that are helping drive our business. And for us, our goal is to not be transactional. We don't simply want to hire you for a job, pay you your invoice, and be on our merry way. We will like to use the same people over and over and over. When I started at ISI in 2004, hardly anything got reviewed. Now, I would say 75% or more gets reviewed on the client side, which can be a good thing, but most often not. Someone at my office speaks a little Spanish, and she took a look at your translation, and she's got some edits for you. I mean, that's the stuff that I have to work through all the time. Did someone at your office look at the term base or the glossary, or have any idea about the style guide or legacy terminology or what we were told to do the last 17 projects? No, but she's really good. She worked at a bank and she speaks some Spanish. I don't mean to be snarky, but that's the stuff you have to work through. And as linguists, dare I say, we're all a little bit ego-driven. Language is equal part art and science, right? There are rules. There's grammar, there's syntax, there's usage, there's terminology, there's the science side of it. And then there's the art side of it. There's the stylistic, there's the aesthetic. If we were all to write a paragraph about this talk, we would have 27 different versions. They're all probably equally right, but they're different versions. So there's always that blend of translation being a little bit susceptible to feedback and edits, and you have to be able to handle that stuff, right? And then what we do, we say, do you have a twin? Do you have a sister? Do you have a brother? Someone that can help us? Somebody like you? You're really good. Who else do you know? We need more people like you, because what better recommendation to get than from somebody that's already proven her mettle with us. So that's what utopia looks like for ISI. And again, it's a slow-moving process, but we aren't after quick transactions, and we look to build with you over time. Really quick example, transit training. Transit is our CUNET. We've done a lot of customization, so we call it transit. Okay? Cat tool training, you've already gotten that here, so you would check that off your list if you come from UWM to ISI. Compliance training. As I mentioned, we do so much healthcare. We get audited by our clients around business elements, around things like, okay, Michael, I get an email on a Monday morning. Michael, we need to see all of your translators' CVs, aptitude tests, attestations of training, and by training we mean fraud, waste, and abuse. We mean a code of conduct. It's not even applicable necessarily to translation industry or language industry, but just around all sorts of federal legal documentation, and you have to have it pretty quickly, okay? And then we have trainings about our corporate culture, what's important to us. We were talking about at lunch, the qualities that we look for, say, in a linguist, and cheapest prices is rarely where we start, and it's communication. It's quick twitch, responsiveness. We like people that answer emails quickly. So I encourage you, as you're starting to think about companies, look for companies, and I know that sounds like a daunting task, because how are you going to really write, hey, Mr. Company, what values do you look for? But if you ask the right questions, I bet you will get them answered, or there should be somebody there. If their job is resource management or vendor management, you should ask what's important to your company, what skills, or what does an ideal profile look like, I know our team would answer you, so I'd have to imagine that other folks would answer you as well. So as you can see, a lot goes into getting involved, more than just translating. Let's see here, we talked about the introductory period, proactive monitoring, two-way communication. Really it boils down to, you ought to be, or have access to, how you're doing. People should be able to be communicative with you. It should be a two-way street. You don't want to just send your translation in and then never hear back. So we really do our best to kind of keep the communication open, okay? Annual reviews, real-time reviews. Never be defensive. If you get feedback or if someone's making edits, I know that it would bother me if I were a translator and you were changing pop for soda or other minor changes, but we really value being a team player, being open, being okay with, hey, have you thought about this? And not responding with, yes, but. The way that we handle things internally, a project manager would get the file from the translator, and then the project manager sends it to the editor. We don't have an editor and translator communicating directly, because if I say, here's your translation, I just edited the heck out of it, you might respond to me, and then you're back and forth, and we're wasting time, right? So our project managers are trying to handle a lot of that. I'm going to pause just really quickly. Questions or concerns about anything that I said so far?
So are the editors like editing translations of language, like from languages that they themselves know, or like just English only?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you asked that. I'm going to talk about our workflow in a minute. Yes. So an editor is equally skilled, a translator, fluent or native speaker of the target language, the direction we're going into. So if it's a French project, right? The project comes to ISI in French, and then I ask you to edit it. I'm giving you, and I'm not just saying go ahead and edit it. And that's what our clients do all the time. The worst thing that you could do is say, take a look at this. Let me know what you think. What does that even mean? And if you tell me to edit something, I was in academia once. I'm going to edit it, because if I send it back to you without any edits, you're going to say Michael was sleeping. He didn't do anything. He barely even read it. I know he was too busy. So that's a problem. We give you a specific set of instructions. There are assets involved. Maybe a term base or a set of terminology or instructions or previous translations. I need you to dot the I's, cross the T's, look at flow, make sure everything's there. Really just another review. Okay? And I won't get too deep into the process because I'm going to talk about that in a minute, our translation process. Does that make sense? So you edit it using track changes or some way to identify changes that need to be made. Oftentimes the editor is writing comments inside the document, not a full dissertation, but give us some thought as to why you should change this to that. Oh, it's because the last time we did this in a project last quarter, the client wanted this, and we haven't updated the terminology base yet, or something like that. And then, so I'm not just changing to change.
Can I just comment too?
Yeah.
We offer a course in editing every other fall, so that course can be offered next fall if you're interested.
Marissa has a question too.
All right,
I just had a
Marissa.
question about the time frame of the onboarding process.
Yeah.
So I'm looking to graduate next December. Would it be possible to start put in my application before you graduate, since you did say it takes a little bit?
What do you want to do?
Translation, German to English and Russian to English.
Got it. So just be a translator. Never too early.
Okay.
You know, I would start finding companies.
Yeah.
Where do you what matches the skill? What kind of content? We don't always have like the fun stuff, right? A lot of our content. So it really just depends. I know there's some literature translation courses. Are there or no?
We have a required literary translation course.
Right. So I would look at the content they're doing. Look at like what verticals they're in. Every company like ours, go to our website. We'll tell you exactly the kind of translation. So without a doubt, and we can take a deeper dive into that whole onboarding and how do you market yourself, and I'd be happy to talk to you offline about that. But I would not just send the same email to 1,000 info at fillingcompany.coms. I don't think you'll get very far. I think that you'd be wise to figure out where to send those resumes and that communication.
I don't know if I missed it or not. Were these in-house positions that you were all talking about, like the linguists, project managers, are those in-house or remote?
There's a mix. I would say, you know, I started at the beginning, all of our project managers typically come from places like this where they can do translation. And by far and away, I mean, all of our project managers are in-house.
Okay.
Doesn't mean they're all in California under our roof. We have some in Mexico. I mean, they're ours. They work for ISI. They're not contractors that work for other companies. The linguists, I would say probably 90% of our linguists, or maybe more, are contracted. Okay? Now, we do a lot of healthcare, so there's a spike in volume that we have a really busy season. We're almost out of it right now. Kind of runs from July almost to Thanksgiving. It's called open enrollment. It's when all the healthcare companies, they want to get all of the healthcare material to the brokers to go out and sell. Just like when you get your health insurance docs, right? But we have what we call low tide, January, February, March, April, where volume's way down. I have a lot of time. That's when PMs will do translating on other projects. They all love doing it. They love to edit. They want to get back to their roots. Like, that's much more exciting than working in Plunet all day. So we like to be able to ramp up and to kind of absorb the, you know, we have to outsource a lot of stuff, and our industry really works that way with contract linguists. But we love to do as much as we can in-house. Certainly proofreading goes way up in-house. And we hire proofreaders. Anybody have an eagle eye here?
I like to think so.
Yeah, you like to think so? Who notices a typo in the newspaper? You could probably be a proofreader. It's a skill. We have better ones than others, but we have proofers too. Okay? I talked enough about mentorship program. So I'm going to skip right on by that. This is an important one. Does that look familiar? Plunet people, right? So, providing feedback. This is in a resource page. True story. When I started at ISI, things like someone would stand up, this would happen. Don't use Piotr. He's a Polish translator and he just totally ghosted me. Everybody hear that? Don't use him anymore. And then we'd all go back to work. Literally. I mean, that was 15 years ago. Now, there are databases, there's ways to communicate. People ghosting us or not doing a good job. We can change those fields on the left, but that's typically what means most to us. Flexibility, accuracy, deadlines, communication, professionalism, and then you get an overall rating. So on each and every project, we rate our resources, okay? And then we share them with you. It's nothing if we don't share that with you. If I think you're a 3-star, I have to tell you why and give you a real-life example, all right? It's not a requirement, but I think that's fair. Oh, geez, I answered you within 6 hours. Now I get it. You wanted me to get back to you in an hour. Should have said so, things like that. So we have to be able to provide feedback, and that gives us a way if we need a certain language combination and a certain vertical, we have the list and we have the ratings and we've got proof and data. So that's how we provide our feedback. Do you go through any of that in Plunet, or is that too?
We don't spend a lot of time on this, on the vendor ratings, but
Yeah. Truth be told, we didn't implement them for several years. It was just like too much, too busy. So there you go, just kind of another page, quality, consistency, flexibility. But those attributes on the left, that really does it for a language professional, for a translator. Flexibility. I know the project is due at 6 p.m. tomorrow, but guess what? The client just told us we need it by 10 a.m. We got to dig a little deeper, reach a little higher. You just got to do this for me. You know, being able to kind of have things, the sand shifting below you and to be able to keep it on. Now, are there any public speakers in the house? Anybody that likes to speak in front of people?
Yeah.
Other than you, Lou? You guys, right? We could probably use you. So language professionals doesn't always mean necessarily doing the translation, or doing the editing, or doing the proofing. Maybe you just like to be around languages. And that's what brought me to ISI, and I was telling you at lunch, I have 55 coworkers from almost every corner of the globe, and I think that's awesome. It's a corporate environment that is multicultural. And I think that it's so exciting. It's fun to go to work. But you don't necessarily have to be a translator to work in the translation industry. Maybe you can speak, maybe you can communicate. Who writes good emails? Who knows how to write a well-written email? Who can do that? What's an attribute of a well-written email?
Being concise, being polite, making sure that you get all your points in one email, just so you don't repeat yourself.
Amen. You hit it all. Concise, brevity. Format is important. I love to see bullets and sub-bullets and all these things, but even just communicating is a lost art. It's a skill, and we need those as well. So now I'm going to pivot just a little bit and talk about how we talk to our clients. And there's a lesson in here for you as translators who want to work for companies like mine. 10 years ago, it was all about ISI's quality, ISI's process, ISI's touch, ISI this, that, and the other thing. That is, it's so trite and just tired, okay? You need to speak to companies and help them understand how you're helping them achieve their goals, okay? So this is a slide I took from a healthcare presentation when we were pitching a large company. I don't go in there and say ISI is our quality, our people, our translation, our tools, ISI. Oh my God, they've heard it all before. But what we want to do is talk to them about how we help their business grow, okay? And though this is kind of a client-side slide, think about how what you could provide to a company can help that company grow. Instead of just saying, I'm a native of Germany and I have my skills in this and this and that and this. Think about how to kind of market your message to companies or other organizations that speaks to what they're trying to achieve. Does that make sense? There's a couple nods. Okay. What do we do? What does effective communication do? All right, and again, this is for the healthcare environment, something that I did really recently. But we're talking about indirectly, this is about ISI, I'm pitching a big company, but I'm not talking about my company. I'm talking about how I'm helping your company. So, those of you that love language and want to be in the translation industry, there are opportunities. Maybe you're a good account manager. Maybe you're a good trainer, right? Maybe you're a good, who wants to be a teacher? I do, true story. You? Perhaps, right? Being able to communicate clearly and effectively and having a language skill is going to open up a ton of doors. So we need people in our organization that are able to engage on the client side and talk about our solutions, and that doesn't mean just reading a script about our tools, okay? It's understanding the bigger picture, the industry, legislation, where things are going. Does anyone have a passion for finance? Really? Who does? Skip it. All right. So, here's what we do. We talk to these companies. And this is really our core business focus. And that's why you see a lot of this healthcare stuff. Here's what we do for your company. Okay? This is our sales pitch. But do you see my logo there? You don't see our company's name, any of that stuff. These are the 5 major kind of cogs in the wheel, or spokes in the wheel, that we handle. So, when I say we do a ton of healthcare, it's not just benefit summaries. That boring stuff that I don't even understand in English. All right? Marketing. Sales kits, we talked about that. The brochures, the pretty things that sit on the doctor's office or the dentist's wall. Lots of things are built in InDesign. Do you guys do any software work in design, any stuff like that?
Teach in design.
No?
There are free trainings available online through UWM.
You're really good.
Well-
You're really getting it in there. Member brochures, customer care, monthly news, press releases, claims. We were talking about this. We're currently doing 2,000, some crazy number like 2,400 little letters a day in my office. And that could be one paragraph where a claim is they've got static text all the way around it, and the only stuff that's variable is why your dental claim was not approved or something like that. So we'll highlight it, our clients will highlight it, and those are those quick twitch kind of in and out projects. Membership, enrollment forms, welcome kits, pharmacy, formularies, directories, a lot of that stuff. Marketing is a little bit different, but is very customer specific. We handle a lot of sensitive information. There is a logo at the top that said High Trust Certified. It's like HIPAA on steroids. We are High Trust Certified. We're thrilled about that. And we talk to compliance people and regulatory people, and they care about how are we going to keep data safe. But it's very important. So that's why you have to follow instructions. That's why you have to be organized. And it's really a zero, what's the word I'm looking for? We can't make mistakes. When you're operating in healthcare, or you're dealing with someone's treatment or medical outcome, above and beyond the laws, there's just no room for error. So I don't have a lot of clients that say, oh, can I just use Google Translate? They all typically understand that they have to use proven provider. But we ran a survey with our clients a couple of years ago. We were trying to find out how much of our stuff goes to print. And we were well over 80%. And by print, I mean published on the internet, given to a member, or given to some, So if you make a mistake, that lives and it's costly. So we have to have the workflows that I'm about to go through really quickly. In order to make sure that we don't. Okay, now we'll do a commercial. That's the bulk of what we do. Any questions? Anything jump out at you? We do interpreting here, right? We have some interpreting courses. Question?
Well, it's a little bit more general, but I know you said you work a lot with the federal government and healthcare clients,
Yep.
which to me sounds like it's mainly English into other languages. How many international clients do you have, or clients where you're actually translating into English?
You're onto something there, but it's not as different as you think. So a bulk of what we do is English into Target. In 2018, we translated into 129 languages. I would say 50% of volume is Spanish, probably 20% is traditional Chinese, and then there's a whole smattering of everything else. That said, all of those claims, all of those letters, they come in another language. Handwritten notes. I mean, you would not believe the amount of scanned, handwritten notes that we get. Clients will say, I need this translated into English. I don't know what language it is.
Yeah.
I mean, that happens all the time. So handwritten, imagine just these chicken scratches from somebody in their kitchen table writing down, why didn't you do this or this, blah, blah, blah. And then it's mailed in, and as soon as our clients get that, there's 21 days or 17 days, whatever, until we have an answer to them in a language that they can understand or consume. So that is all foreign language into English. And there's a lot of native English speakers. I've heard the program are predominantly. We have some Spanish to English, German to English translators that I wish we could photocopy them. They're very busy. So a lot of what we do, and a lot of our clients are multinational. It happens to be that a lot of our translations are consumed here in the United States, but they have all those different arms, marketing or sales or this, and a lot of the appeals and grievances come from folks handwriting or maybe typing in, okay? Companies will have to ensure, say their members are abroad, and they were hiking in the Swiss Alps, and this stuff happens, and it's so exciting. Not exciting because it's a painful story, but broke my leg in Switzerland, went to the doctor. I've got all sorts of documentation in another language. We have to translate everything all the way down to the stamps. It's really cool. They use this tool in Word, and it kind of goes, I mean, so, now I'm rambling. So there's a block of services that companies like mine do. So if you're interested in multimedia, right? I see some nodding. Things like that. If you have a passion and then can layer that with some linguistic aptitude, you're already a better candidate than someone else. So it's not just about getting that translation degree. No offense, that's important. Okay? Alternate formats, we do a ton of that. Braille, large print, audio. We still have one client that requires one individual member receive their material with cassette tapes. Most of you don't know what a cassette tape is, right? All right, gotta go fast. Types of documents on the left, and there are some formats. Okay? On the right, so this is not an exhaustive list, but those are the kinds of files, or the formats of files on the right that come in all the time. And on the left, for a typical healthcare client, there's a big batch of types of files.
What's SPD?
SPD, I love these quizzes, summary.
Is it a pharmaceutical
You're
thing?
stumping.
No, okay, doesn't matter.
An SPD is a summary, I would want to say summary plan, because that would be something like,
Insurance.
I'm going to find that out. You just stumped me. Because I was sitting here going, I forgot what COC stands for. But it's really good to get involved with a lot of these different kind of formats and have a general understanding. We convert our InDesign into, help me out, it's not XCliff. Told you I wasn't the tool guy. Back in the day, we used to extract text, pull it out, throw it into Word, and then translate it right inside your tool. And now there are ways to convert